Welcome to Kolkata Literature Festival. It's so lovely to have you here and to have so many millions of conversations about books with you. It's so lovely.
Thank you so much for inviting me here. It's great honor and great pleasure for me to be in Kolkata because I've spent years reading books about India, and it's actually my first time in India, and I'm feeling so home here because the books prepared me for what I see.
So, books and the love for books and then becoming a literary critic. How is that journey? Like, the first time we hear the word literary criticism, we kind of feel scared. Oh, she's going to say something about books that we might not like, and that book might not be there. So, how does this process of literary criticism work?
Well, actually, it's all about love. When people see the word critic, they imagine some harsh person with
Cranky person.
yes, probably with a beard and not rather old and grumpy. But and when people see me, they decided that I'm a fake, that I'm not really a literary critic. Because for me, literary criticism is about. Reading a lot, legally reading a lot. You have when you're sitting with a book in a corner, it means that you're at work, which means which makes me absolutely happy. And it's telling other people about the books you love. I think nowadays it's not that important to write about bad books, to tell some people not to read this book, because there are too many books now, and it's difficult to make a choice. And when I have chance to speak, let's speak about the things you love. So usually I'm writing reviews on the books that I find interesting in some way. So uh, I know that people don't believe that critics are good, nice, and loving people, but they still are. I've never seen a person who would turn literary critic just for hate. It's all about love.
So, love brings you to literary criticism. That's a very interesting journey. About reading with love, going into that step, reading as a reader and reading as a literary critic. Is that different for you or is that the same? And how does it work together, step by step?
Well, initially I used to read for pleasure, and now all the books I read both for pleasure and for work, because there are too many books. I cannot read all of them and cannot write reviews on all of them. So I have a privilege to choose, and I'm trying to choose the books that I would like or find interesting in some way. Usually, I read books that I like, and I read them in order to write a review in the future. So for me, it's all the same. Now, all the things that I read both for pleasure and for work. So I don't make any difference.
Russian children literature has always been said to be extremely rich. We have some translated work of Russian literature since I was a child as well. I have seen those books myself. And there has always been a cultural amalgamation between India and Russia. They're very close to each other, very close to each other's hearts. So, tell me your most memorable experience as a child and stepping into the world of books at a very young age. How did that come about?
Oh, yeah, probably my spiritual feeling for India started when I was maybe 4, because it was the Jungle Book by Rudyard Kipling that was extremely popular in the Soviet Union, and I think all kids were reading it. And the story about the Rikki Tikki Tavi, the mongoose fighting with snakes, it's also a story by Rudyard Kipling. They were all there under my skin, and I think that I really don't remember the time when I was not a reader. I come from a family where all people are connected to literature, and books were around me before I was born, I think. So for me, reading is like breathing or walking or, I don't know, eating. It's absolutely natural process for me. So it's difficult to say what were my first steps. My first steps were made before I could I could walk. So for me, reading is an absolutely natural thing. I would not survive without books.
I cannot remember when I first stepped into the world of books. It's such a marvelous thought to think about. Even it's magical, and so you've also been in the jury of a lot of book awards, and that itself sounds to be a very hard process. Like going straight into the world of books and picking out one, choosing one out of all of them. How did that come about, and how do you choose a book? What are the things that you're looking for in a book?
Well, it's really a very unpleasant process for me because you need to make a judgment. You need to choose one book and declare that this is the best, and thus you need to humiliate the other books. That's what I don't really like. I prefer to keep silent if the book doesn't speak to my heart. Basically, for me. The good books are the books that make the people better. They make them feel better. They make them happier and better persons, maybe more clever, more happy, more I don't know, pleasant, more uh, uh, ready, more open-hearted. That's what I expect of a book. I know it sounds a bit sentimental and maybe even foolish, but I really think that the books must make people better. And if the book fits uh, this idea, I would prefer to give the prize to this book.
In the heart of the book fair, we end with the words that good books should make people better. What a lovely thought. And it's so nice to speak to you here today, Galina. It's so lovely to have you here. I hope you have a marvelous time at the Kolkata Literature Festival. It was lovely to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you so much.